I was on my way back from deployment, looking forward to my first Christmas with my family in years, when my phone buzzed with a message from my father. "Christmas is better without you. Don't come." I stared at it for a moment before replying with just one word: understood. Then, quietly and calmly, I made a few adjustments to certain pieces of paperwork. 48 hours later, I had 7 missed calls, and one of them from their lawyer. My name is Lisa. I'm 28 years old. A staff sergeant in the U.S. Army, and up until recently, I was the daughter who sent half of her paycheck home every month because I thought that's what loyalty to family meant. For the past year, I've been stationed in Germany. It's been nearly 4 years since I last saw my family in person. Not by choice, but because there are only so many times you can fly halfway across the world just to feel invisible in your own home. Still, this year, I let myself believe things might be different. You'd think someone trained in tactical risk assessment would know better than to keep trusting people who never show up for you. But before I'm a soldier, I'm human. And humans hope, even when they shouldn't. When I found out my Christmas leave had been approved, I was genuinely thrilled. I hadn't spent a holiday at home since enlisting. I imagined my mom getting teary-eyed, maybe setting a place for me at the dinner table. I pictured my dad handing me a beer without the usual awkward silence. I even entertained the foolish thought that my sister might ask how I was doing instead of talking about her car problems. So, I booked a non-refundable flight because apparently, I also believe in miracles. I texted my mom, "Got leave. I'll be home for Christmas. Can't wait to see everyone." She reacted with a heart emoji. No words, just a little red heart. I tried not to overthink it. For a few days, I let myself believe that maybe, just maybe, things would be okay. That I'd walk into warmth instead of tension. That the people I'd been helping financially every month might actually want me there for more than just the money. Then, 12 days before Christmas, my phone vibrated while I was standing in the base kitchen, halfway through a stale protein bar. The message was from my dad. "Christmas is better without you. Don't come." I stared at it for a long time, hoping it was a joke, a typo, anything but real. 2 minutes later, my sister followed up. "It'll just make things awkward. Please don't show up." That one hit deeper than I expected. Not because she'd ever been affectionate, but because it read like something you'd text an ex. Not your own sister. I didn't argue. I didn't ask why. I just replied, "Understood." I wish I could say I didn't feel a thing, that I was used to it. But that would have been a lie. The kind soldiers tell themselves to make it through the night. No, my heart broke. Not with drama or noise, just quietly. The kind of heartbreak where something inside you shifts, and you know it's never shifting back. And then came something new. Not anger, not vengeance, but clarity. That night, I logged into the accounts where my name still existed, the shared utility account I'd been covering temporarily for 3 years. My sister's car insurance, which had been charged to my card since she lost her job, and most importantly, the mortgage portal, the one I'd been paying into every month. Even though my name wasn't on the deed, I didn't own the house, but I'd been the one keeping it afloat. My dad couldn't qualify for the loan after losing his job. My income and credit had made the approval possible. I had been the unseen support they leaned on without ever acknowledging it, so I made a few quiet decisions. First, I ended all automatic payments. Then I emailed the mortgage company, formally notifying them that I would no longer be contributing financially, and that all communication should be directed to the primary borrower, my father. "Are you sure?" the representative asked over the phone. "This may trigger a refinancing process or interrupt the payment schedule." I nodded. Even though she couldn't see me, "I'm sure." And then I did something even I can't fully explain. I still boarded the plane home. Yes, they had told me not to come. Yes, they made it clear I wasn't wanted. But the ticket was already bought, and maybe some stubborn, wounded part of me needed to see it through. To go home one last time, even if I never stepped inside the house. I touched down 2 days before Christmas. Instead of renting a car, I grabbed a cab straight to a rundown motel off the highway, the kind with flickering lights, paper-thin walls, and curtains you don't want to look at too closely. Sitting on the edge of the bed, I gazed out at the town I used to call home. The same old shops, the same frosty wind whipping through leafless trees. Everything was familiar, yet I felt like a stranger trespassing in a life that had already moved on without me. I didn't drive past the house, didn't reach out. I just waited. By morning, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. 7 missed calls, 3 from my father, 2 from a blocked number, 1 from my sister, and 1 from a number I didn't recognize until I played the voicemail. Miss Morgan, this is Nathan Calloway, legal counsel for your parents. I've been informed that you've discontinued financial support related to their mortgage. They're understandably concerned. I'd appreciate the chance to speak with you before this escalates into complications. Complications? I whispered, staring at the screen. Now they were concerned. Not when I was wiring money from across the ocean. Not when I was missing birthdays, holidays, entire pieces of my life. Only now, when the money stopped. I didn't call back. Instead, I ordered greasy takeout, shut the flimsy motel curtains, and let the quiet wrap around me like armor. I was home for Christmas, just not in the way anyone expected, and for the first time in years, I felt something new pressing at the edges of my chest. Control. I can't pinpoint the first time I realized I didn't quite belong in my own family. It wasn't one sudden moment, more like a slow build, small reminders scattered through the years that I was useful, not cherished. Present, but never the center. I was 8 when Haley, my little sister, was born. She came screaming into the world, red-faced and tiny, and my parents acted like heaven itself had sent her on a golden cloud. Dad called her the miracle baby. I used to wonder what that made me in the rehearsal. To be fair, I wasn't difficult. Not moody, not strange, just self-sufficient. I liked books, organized my toy soldiers in perfect rows, kept my grades up. I didn't demand much. In my family, that meant I didn't get much attention either. Back then, Dad worked as a foreman at a steel plant. Loud, opinionated, larger than life. He believed emotions were weaknesses unless they came through a clenched jaw or a raised fist. If I cried, he told me to toughen up. If I got quiet, I was being dramatic. If I got angry, he'd bark a "stop acting like a girl," which was ironic. Considering I was 1, Mom was softer, but in a distant, distracted way. Like her body was there, but her mind was somewhere else. She forgot parent-teacher meetings, mixed up my practice times, sometimes forgot to pack my lunch. But she never missed Haley's ballet recitals, play dates, or favorite snacks. I wasn't unloved, just invisible, unless I messed up. When I turned 16, I got a part-time job at a gas station and saved every penny. I had this dream of buying a used car, of driving away until the world felt bigger. But a month later, Dad borrowed my savings to fix the roof. The roof never got fixed. But Haley's Sweet 16? That had a DJ and catered cupcakes. At 19, I enlisted in the Army. No one tried to stop me. Dad just grunted, "Figures." Mom cried, though it felt more like a performance. The kind of tears that check a box rather than come from the heart. Haley didn't say a word. Maybe she assumed I'd eventually come back, orbiting around them like always. Boot camp was hell, but it made sense. There were rules, expectations, and rewards for effort. For once, things were fair. If you worked, you earned. You belonged. It was the first time I felt I had a place in the world. Meanwhile, life back home went on. Or rather, fell apart. And no one told me. I found out my dad had been laid off not through a call or message, but from a GoFundMe post my mom shared on Facebook. The caption read, "Hard times, trying to stay afloat. Every little bit helps." That was the first time I sent money. I didn't even hesitate. I logged into my military banking account and transferred $2,000. My father didn't bother saying thank you, just sent a text that read, "That should cover this month. Let me know when you can send more." That's how it started. Then it became routine. Power bill, car insurance, mortgage, there was always something. My mom would sigh into the phone, my dad would layer it with guilt. "It's just temporary. You're the only one doing all right." Meanwhile, Haley was working part-time and finding herself. By 22, she'd wrecked her second car. I covered the deductible and helped her buy a used SUV. She texted back a single word. "Thanks." A month later, She posted a photo online with the caption, "When you work hard, you earn your rewards." I didn't reply. I just took a screenshot and tucked it away in a folder I named Unpaid Debts and Unsaid Things. The last time I visited home, 4 years ago, my final attempt at keeping the connection, no one even looked up when I walked through the door. My old room had been turned into a storage space, so I slept on the couch. During dinner, my dad raised his glass to Haley, calling her the one who always shows up. I didn't say a word, didn't eat much either. The next morning, there wasn't a single present with my name on it, just a mug waiting on the counter that said Grumpy Vet in bold letters. Everyone laughed. Mom said, "It's a joke." I smiled too, because that's what you do when you're the punchline. After that, I stopped visiting. I still sent money, still answered calls, but inside, I was quietly closing doors one by one, and yet somehow, against reason I kept hoping, when my leave was approved this year, I told myself maybe things would be different. Maybe I'd walk in and they'd be genuinely happy to see me. Not because I'd transferred money or solved a crisis, but simply because I was me. It was naive. But hope doesn't ask for permission, it just shows up. Now, sitting alone in that shabby motel off the highway, I thought about everything. The birthdays I'd missed, the paychecks I'd redirected, the parts of myself I'd buried just to keep the peace. I thought about how I'd been trained for war zones, but somehow couldn't survive my own living room. I remembered Haley once telling me I was too intense because I didn't laugh at a meme where someone faked being a homeless veteran for likes. And I thought about Mom's favorite phrase, "We love you." We're just not good at showing it. As if love were a puzzle I was too dense to solve. That's when it finally clicked. Painfully, but also with a strange kind of relief. I wasn't part of their family. I'd just been funding it. The calls started 2 days before Christmas. At first, I ignored them. Not out of spite, at least not consciously, but because I didn't owe them my urgency anymore. I was done jumping the second my screen lit up with a 503 area code. Done being the emergency contact for people who only remembered my number when they needed something fixed. The first round was small. A missed call from Dad, a voicemail from an unknown number, and one from Haley at 11:49 p.m., which felt perfectly timed to be annoying yet dramatic. I didn't listen. The second round hit the next morning, 7 missed calls before noon. 1 from the house landline, 3 from Dad's cell, 2 from Haley, and 1 labeled Callaway and Green Law Office. That one caught my eye. I sat on the edge of the motel bed, coffee cooling in my hands, staring at the caller ID like it might explain itself. Eventually, curiosity won. I pressed play. "Miss Morgan, this is Nathan Callaway, counsel for your parents. I've been informed that you've discontinued your financial contributions toward the jointly financed property. They're understandably distressed. I'd like to discuss this before it causes further complications." Complications? I muttered under my breath. Right, like self-respect. I didn't call back. I wasn't about to be manipulated again. I knew the script by heart. Turn concern into guilt. Rebrand guilt as duty. And hope I'd cave before they had to face reality without my help. Instead, I silenced my phone and stepped outside. It was snowing. That soft, hesitant kind of snow that barely coats your shoulders and refuses to make anything beautiful. The streets looked just as dull and gray as I remembered. My hometown hadn't changed, but somehow I had. As I walked, I passed the old bakery where I used to buy donuts on Saturday mornings, cheap, stale, and perfect in their own way. The old sign had nearly faded away. I couldn't look at it without remembering the day Haley got caught shoplifting there. I'd pedaled all the way across town to bring her home before Dad could find out. Her gratitude lasted exactly no time at all. She froze me out for a week, claiming I'd killed her vibe. I laughed quietly to myself, a hollow kind of sound that came out like a sigh wearing the weight of old memories. When I returned to the motel, the front desk clerk eyed me curiously. "The phone's been ringing nonstop for you," she said. "You some kind of hometown celebrity?" "Something like that," I replied and made my way upstairs. That night, I handled things the way any totally balanced adult would. I cracked open a bottle of cheap whiskey I'd grabbed at a gas station and sat in the dark, watching old training clips on my laptop. Not because I missed deployment, but because those videos reminded me of who I was before everyone decided I existed to fix their problems. Around 1 a.m., the messages started rolling in again. Before that, they'd all been a mix of fury and confusion. "What the hell, Lisa? You can't just abandon your family like this. We needed that money. What's wrong with you?" But that night, the tone shifted. "Mom's been crying all day. Dad says his chest hurts. You're killing them with this silence." I raised my glass to the ceiling. "Here's to guilt trips, vintage 1995, still in perfect condition." I almost gave in. Not because I believed them, but because that's what I'd been trained to do. Soothe, fix, carry everyone else's weight. But then I remembered something my commanding officer once told me. Sometimes silence is louder than anything you could ever say. So I kept my quiet. By Christmas Eve, the guilt parade had gone biblical. I woke up to Bible verses and a vague post from Haley that read, "Some people forget who fed them when they were starving," followed by a smiling family photo. Mom and Dad on the couch. 3 stockings on the wall. Mine wasn't there. That's when I decided to speak, just not with words. I posted a photo album titled "Just So We're Clear." The caption read, "Sometimes family isn't who you're born to. It's who doesn't make you prove your exhaustion every time you say you're tired." Inside were screenshots, bank transfers, insurance payments, mortgage statements, all with my account info blacked out, dates, totals, no commentary, just facts. The response was immediate. Comments flooded in. Cousins I hadn't heard from in years sent private messages. "Lisa, are you serious? You paid all that? They always made it sound like you abandoned them." I had no idea. That's messed up. Within an hour, Mom's Facebook went dark. Dad swapped his profile picture to one of him fishing. Classic avoidance. Haley, true to form, posted something snarky about people who thrive on drama. I didn't reply. Not publicly, not privately. Instead, I booked one more night at the motel. At 6:32 p.m., Dad left me a voicemail. "You've gone too far, Lisa. You humiliated us. I don't even know who you are anymore. You used to be loyal. Now you're just cruel. Congratulations. You've ruined Christmas." That was ironic, considering I hadn't even been invited. Then at 7:10, Haley sent a final text. "You made your point. They're losing it. Mom's not eating. Dad's talking about selling the house. Are you happy now?" Was I happy? No, but for once I was honest, with myself, if not with them. I stared at the screen for a long time, typed out a reply, then deleted it. Instead, I sat in the quiet again. And this time, it wasn't the heavy kind that waits for an apology. It was peaceful. I realized I wasn't hoping they'd finally understand me. I was learning how to stop explaining myself. I never answered Haley's last message, the one asking if I was happy, because the truth was, I wasn't, not really. I didn't feel triumphant or redeemed, just tired, like someone who'd been dragging a suitcase uphill for 10 years and had finally let go of the handle. On Christmas morning, I woke to stillness. No calls, no accusations, no guilt-laced messages. Just the low hum of the motel's mini fridge and the blinking light of a new voicemail. It was from an unknown number. I pressed play. "Miss Morgan, this is Mr. Calloway again. I've spoken with your parents, and I believe emotions are just running high right now. They'd like to meet face to face. No pressure, of course, but I think a calm conversation could help mend things." I stared at the ceiling. Mend what exactly? The years of emotional blackmail? The financial leash they kept me on? Still, curiosity won out. I texted him back a place and time. Tomorrow, 6 p.m., Dennis's Diner off Route 12. Booth in the back, neutral ground. Public place. Harder to shout when people are watching. I never mentioned that I'd be bringing someone with me. The following evening, I arrived 10 minutes early and ordered a black coffee. No food. My stomach didn't trust me enough for that. The diner was quiet, bathed in soft yellow light, a dusty jukebox humming faintly in the corner. Christmas lights still blinked around the windows, long past their season, like no one had the heart to turn them off. I picked a booth tucked at the back. the kind that let you keep eyes on both the door and every exit. At exactly 6:03 p.m., they appeared. Dad in his stiff old jacket, jaw locked tight. Mom clutching her purse like it might escape if she loosened her grip. Haley hiding behind oversized sunglasses indoors, either a poor disguise or another one of her looks. They slid into the booth in silence. Dad began, voice like gravel. "We don't want this getting worse than it already is." Mom followed, her voice trembling. "We're family, Lisa. We've all said things we didn't mean." Haley sniffled. "But airing our private business online? That was low, even for you." I leaned back, staring at her. "Even for me?" Interesting perspective. Dad's glare hardened. "You embarrassed your mother, your sister, and me." I took a slow sip of coffee. "No, you embarrassed yourselves. I just stopped cleaning up the mess." Haley's sunglasses slipped down her nose, revealing bloodshot eyes. "You didn't have to cut us off like that." "That house," I interrupted, "was being paid for, at least in part, by someone who wasn't even welcome inside it on Christmas Day. So let's not pretend this was about practicality." Dad's hands curled into fists on the table. "We came here to fix this, but if you're going to keep playing the victim—" "No one's playing anything," I said, tone steady. "I just quit funding my own erasure." I reached into my coat and drew out a thick, neatly labeled folder. "Since we're all gathered here, let's make things crystal clear." I slid it across the table. Inside were detailed records of every payment I'd ever made. Mortgage transfers, utility bills, insurance statements, even Haley's car coverage. All neatly itemized. Every receipt, every date. Proof of every forgotten favor. Mom's face drained of color. Dad's turned scarlet. Haley's lips tightened until they were a single trembling line. "We didn't ask for this," Mom whispered. "You didn't have to," I said. "You just expected it." Dad slammed his palm on the table, silverware rattling. "You think this makes you better than us?" "No," I replied quietly. "Just not foolish enough to keep bankrolling people who treat me like I'm disposable." Haley tore off her sunglasses, eyes swollen and wet. "You're being cruel. This is your family, Lisa." "Family goes both ways," I said evenly. "I've been walking that road alone for years." Then the diner door chimed, the soft jingle of its bell slicing through the tension. I didn't even need to look. I knew who it was. Uncle Tom stepped in, tall and steady despite the cane. His silver hair was combed back, his coat older than I was. His expression froze everyone in place. "Well," he said calmly, "isn't this a cozy little reunion?" Dad shot up from his seat, panic flickering in his eyes. "Tom, I didn't know you were here." "You never do," Tom said coolly. "That's always been your problem." He turned toward me. "Lisa, good to see you. You doing better these days?" Then his gaze swept to my parents and Haley. "I heard about the messages, the yelling, the lawyer, the tears. You always did put on a convincing show, Ron." Dad opened his mouth, but no words came out. "Funny thing," Tom went on. "When Lisa visited me last year quietly, without announcement, she didn't ask for a thing. She helped clean the gutters, kept me company, talked like I was worth listening to. And when I ended up in the hospital, she was the only one who showed up. Flew across continents, no hesitation. Mom started to speak, but Tom lifted a hand. "Don't. Just don't." Then he reached inside his coat, pulled out a sealed envelope, and dropped it on the table in front of my father. "My updated will," he said simply. "Signed 2 weeks ago. Lisa is now the sole beneficiary. The silence that followed could have cracked glass. The house, the land, the savings, it's all hers." Haley gaped. "You're joking." "No," Tom said. "I don't joke about accountability." Dad looked like he'd been struck. "You're cutting us out?" "I'm cutting out the rot," Tom said coldly. "And before you ask, you can't fight it. It's notarized and filed with my attorney." He turned to me, his face softening. "I should have done this a long time ago, kid. I'm sorry I waited." I gave a small nod, my throat tightening. "You made it just in time," I murmured. Uncle Tom didn't reply. He simply turned away, the steady rhythm of his cane echoing softly across the diner tiles as he left. No dramatics, no lingering looks. Just quiet dignity. I rose, placed a few bills on the table, and said evenly, Thanks for coming. Mom's eyes blinked rapidly, glistening. Lisa, please. You made your choice, I said gently but firmly. Now I'm making mine. Dad's jaw clenched. So that's it? You're just walking away after everything we did for you? I looked straight into his eyes. You didn't do things for me, I said. You did them to me. And I'm finished. Without waiting for another word, I turned and walked out. That night, back in the motel room, my phone buzzed with a final message from Haley. I don't even know who you are anymore. I didn't type a response. Instead, I whispered into the empty room, someone who finally learned how to leave. Epilogue. 2 months later, I stood in the middle of Uncle Tom's living room, surrounded by cardboard boxes and sunlight streaming through the curtains, and felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Stillness. Not that heavy silence that comes with guilt or loneliness, but real, peaceful quiet. I had taken leave again once the estate transfer was complete. The attorney managed everything cleanly. No arguments, no appeals, no theatrics. Just a simple handover from a man who had truly seen me to a woman finally ready to understand what being seen could mean. The house wasn't grand. It was small, old, and a little creaky, but it was mine. And for once, it wasn't earned through sacrifice or obligation. It was given out of belief, someone believing I deserved more than just survival. On the mantel sat a single framed photo, me and Uncle Tom on his porch, both mid-laughter. I can't even remember the joke now, only the look on his face. Pride, quiet, and unspoken. The kind of love that doesn't need to prove itself. It just is. I haven't spoken to my parents or to Haley since that night at the diner. There were a few messages after the will went public, some pleading, others angry, but I blocked them all, and for the first time, I didn't feel an ounce of guilt. Peace doesn't have to be earned through suffering. And you don't owe it to anyone simply because they share your blood. Sometimes the people you call family are the ones who drain you dry. And sometimes, freedom is what happens the moment you stop letting them. I don't know what comes next. Maybe I'll turn this old house into something that matters, a quiet place for veterans to rest and recover. Or maybe I'll just stay here for a while, learning how to exist without waiting for the next blow. Either way, I'm not looking back. Thank you for listening. This story wasn't easy to tell, but maybe someone out there needed to hear it. Tell me, do you think I made the right choice? Would you have done the same? And if you'd like to hear more stories like this, don't forget to subscribe.